If I were starting with the Power Platform today with all of the AI hype, agents, and vibe coding everywhere, I wouldn't do what most people expect me to say. I actually started with the Power Platform before it was even called the Power Platform, so believe me, I've seen this thing evolve over the years. When I started, I was a SharePoint and .NET developer, so I was doing very SharePointy and codey things. I had my own little consulting business, and like many of us back then, I was building forms with InfoPath and workflows in SharePoint Designer. Then I heard about this little thing called Project Sienna, a tool for building apps without all of the pain of InfoPath. And I remember thinking, this sounds like a better way to get things done. So I tried it, and Project Sienna turned into what we know today as Power Apps. Power Apps then became part of the Power Platform, and here we are almost 10 years later. And I think my long charted history with this platform shapes how I think about where people should focus today. I bet a lot of you expected me to say that, hey, just embrace vibe coding, you don't need to understand how anything works anymore. But trust me, that's not how this works, and I would do the exact opposite. I'd focus on the fundamentals and then build up from there. Because here's the thing, you can't just blindly accept what Copilot or Claude or any other AI tool gives you. You need to review, refactor, and sometimes even reject what they spit out. These tools will suggest a Dataverse schema that just isn't scalable. They'll write a flow that just doesn't work, and they can simply just make stuff up. And if you don't have that deep platform knowledge, you won't even know the difference. That's why the fundamentals matter now more than ever. So here's what I do. First, I'd obsess over the foundation, which is Dataverse. I would make sure that I have a really good understanding of the security model and how all of that works. About table design and relational data modeling, column limits and data types, where your data actually lives, how to set up business rules and how they work, and how solutions and environments work. Because Dataverse is the underpinning of almost everything that you'll build in the Power Platform. Apps, automations, agents, integrations, all of it. And if you don't know how your data is structured, how it's secured, where it lives, you're going to be flying blind, and the solutions that you build will eventually crack under pressure. And number 2, I'd go beyond Canvas apps plus SharePoint scenarios. Look, I love Canvas apps, I love SharePoint, and I still use both. Heck, that's what brought me into this space. But if I were starting today, I wouldn't stay locked in this narrow space. You need to know when to pivot to model-driven apps, or even code apps, Dataverse-backed solutions, when SQL makes sense, when SharePoint doesn't make sense, and yeah, even some pro-dev integrations. And this isn't because Canvas apps are bad or they're going away, or even SharePoint is bad. It's because knowing when to choose something else is what levels you up. And your tool belt needs to go way beyond just one style of application. Number 3, I would master the essentials of Power Automate. Yes, agents are all the rage today, and they're really important, but here's the thing. Take a look under the hood at some of the agents you see in Copilot Studio, and you're going to find flows everywhere. So I would double down on really learning Power Automate in things like expressions, understanding variables and compose, loops and conditions, error handling, and trigger behavior. This is core automation literacy that you're going to need not only for simple automation scenarios, but if you want to start building agents. Number 4, I would go deep into Copilot Studio because this really is the future. If you haven't noticed, maybe you've been living under a rock, agentic experiences are creeping into everything that we do. Power Apps has agents now. We have agents in Microsoft 365 and Outlook, Word, and Excel. They're everywhere. And Copilot Studio is your low-code gateway to building these kinds of agentic experiences for your business needs. So really understanding the product and how agents reason and orchestrate actions and interact with data is huge. And I would focus on building real-world scenarios because identifying the actual use cases for agents instead of just building flashy demos is almost as important as knowing how to use the tool. And if you want some real-world hands-on experience, you should check out the Agent Academy curriculum that I helped build at aka.ms/agent-academy. Now, number 5, I would go outside of the Power Platform ecosystem. And what I mean by this is don't stay siloed because the most impactful solutions that we build come from blending different technologies together. So I would do things like making sure that you know how Microsoft 365 works and how Copilot works and integrates with the Power Platform. I would look at Foundry and Azure AI and how you could potentially integrate that in your stack. I would even go out to things like GitHub Copilot and VS Code and see how those tools are being used in the dev world and if there are any applications to what you're doing in the Power space. And go outside the Microsoft ecosystem too. Take a look at Claude and other LLMs and see what they're capable of. I'm not saying you need to master all this, but you just need enough awareness to see how the Power Platform fits into the bigger picture. Number 6 is to understand MCP and the power of connectors. A platform is only as powerful as what it can connect to, and the Power Platform was really built on this principle. Its connector model is one of its biggest strengths, but only if you understand it. I would focus on understanding things like what an API even is, how connectors work, the difference between standard and premium connectors, and how to build custom connectors. Because this is what will enable you to bring in your own data and integrate with almost anything in your apps, flows, and agents. And once you know that, I would learn MCP, or Model Context Protocol. And this isn't just another connector. It's a protocol that's used by Copilot Studio and other AI tools to allow you to interact with third-party systems in a grounded, AI-first way. And this is quickly becoming the standard way that Copilot Studio and other Microsoft agents talk to external systems. Many Microsoft services are now getting their own MCP servers that you can use to be able to better interact with those services in the agents that you built. And these are different from traditional connectors because they're designed specifically to be agent-based and good in those conversational scenarios. It provides that semantic context and action definitions in a way that AI can better reason over. And you can even create your own custom MCP servers to integrate with your own APIs and services. So long term, I think connectors will still matter, but for AI use cases like agents and Copilot Studio, MCP is going to take the lead. So if I were starting now, I would get ahead of that curve and start learning how MCP works. And the final thing that I would do different here, number 7, is plug into the community as soon as possible. Because you really don't have to go at this alone. We have a huge community in the Power Platform and Microsoft 365 space with a lot of great people. They get together, we share examples, we solve problems, we explore use cases, and help each other out. So I would make sure that you're getting plugged into the regular community calls where we have people from Microsoft and the community sharing things that they built and what they've learned. I would explore all the sample galleries that we have to get started building solutions. I would ask questions, even if they feel basic to you. And more importantly, I would share what I learned even before I thought I was ready, because that's how you give back to others. And I can honestly say from personal experience that giving back and being a part of the community is the gift that keeps on giving. So to sum it all up, if I were starting the Power Platform in 2026, I wouldn't just vibe code and hope for the best. I'd build muscle memory in the fundamentals. And I wouldn't rush to shortcuts. I'd focus on really understanding how the platform works, and then let AI help me move faster on top of it.